The term underrated is thrown around quite a lot in the gaming space, but it isn't always justified. Just because we like something that not everyone else does, we sometimes use this term as a way of showing that the game we like is underappreciated by a larger audience, even if said game isn't so deserving of the praise. However, there is one game that is severely overshadowed by its rivals, and that continues to be overlooked by many. A game that's made by the same company who made the wildly popular and successful Apex Legends, that's taken the world by storm over the last 4 years. And that game is Titanfall, or more specifically, Titanfall 2. Released in 2016, right at the time of the launch of Battlefield 1 and Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, it would seem at face value that EA set this game up to be a flop, as it was released in the same release window as both of these games. Or on the other hand, was it Respawn Entertainment's ambition that led to the unfortunate overshadowing of one of the most creative and exhilarating first-person shooters over the last decade? Well, that is up for debate. But what isn't up for debate is the lasting impact that this game has had. A game that's not only been able to achieve success in the eyes of critics and the wider gaming community, but simultaneously lay the foundation for the success of the best current battle royale on the market with its universe and characters. And it's also been able to build a small but strong and passionate community who continue to play this game to this day due to its high quality and clear love and passion that went into it. So prepare to get crushed by a titan and grab some popcorn as I take a retrospective look at Titanfall 2 and answer the question of why it's so underrated. So let's waste no time and jump straight into the multiplayer of Titanfall 2 and what makes it so special. If you've been around the Call of Duty community over the last decade, you might remember the so-called jetpack era, with Advanced Warfare, Black Ops 3 and finally Infinite Warfare. A controversial and uncertain time to say the least. But one thing that is certain is how jetpacks and advanced movement never really felt right in COD, even if it had been refined over the years. The map design and balancing as a whole was changed to accommodate for the new movement, but it never felt perfect. But what about a game where everything, from map design to weapon balance to accommodating large titans, is at the forefront of every design choice? And that is where you have Titanfall 2. Like other FPS games, the gameplay loop itself is quite simple, with the main goal being dependent on the game mode itself, such as having to get more kills than your opponent in something like attrition, or having to hold the objective longer than them in game modes such as Hardpoint. Where Titanfall differs, however, is in the name, the Titans. A few times a game, depending on your performance, you will be able to call in your Titan. These are basically huge mech suits with different abilities and strengths. Some come with missiles, or some come with fire, but all of them come with a large amount of power that can devastate a battlefield. You can either control these things yourself, or have them follow you around and act as a bit of additional protection as you wall ride and jump around. And more on that topic of movement, let's look at some of the movement in Titanfall, as it's really at the core of everything you do. Every pilot is able to wall run, boost jump, and slide over large distances, and these can be combined to do some pretty cool movement tech, reach higher speeds, and get some impressive kills. But alongside this, there are some abilities for each pilot. These range from a scan revealing enemies, or even more movement abilities such as a stim or a grapple. And I wonder where I've seen them before. These all help to make movement in Titanfall fluid and where you can fly across these maps in just a few seconds. This also creates quite a high skill ceiling, which I personally love, as the more you play a game, the more you should be rewarded in skill. And this is definitely visible, as if you come across anyone who knows how to move around the maps fast, you'll have a very hard time fighting them. and this may come at the expense of your controller, as you lose to that player over and over again. But what about the maps where all of this action takes place? It must be hard to accommodate this kind of mayhem. But this is where the team at Respawn did a fantastic job in creating play spaces that make it all work. Every map feels like a sandbox of such, to allow all this fun to take place. And due to the setting of the game, Respawn are not so limited in the creativity of the maps either, with each of them coming with their own charm and vibrancy. A map like Glitch, for example, excels in allowing the pilot to be at the forefront of the action, but also looks absolutely stunning. And there's a wide selection of these maps too, with 15 multiplayer maps, all with their own different playstyles and colour palettes. The gameplay on these maps is fast paced, and there is more of a focus on action when you compare it to the original, with the lanes of these maps being more visible and the layout slightly more simple. I personally did prefer the maps of the original in terms of their diverse layouts, but maybe that's just my nostalgia talking. You can't have a good shooter though without having good weapons, and Titanfall 2 certainly does an alright job in providing enough for the sandbox. From more traditional ballistic weapons to some more futuristic energy weapons, there really is something here for everyone. And whilst there isn't the widest selection, the creator class allows you to change every weapon and therefore makes each loadout feel different and each choice have purpose, more akin to the days of Modern Warfare 2. The customization of these weapons is minimalistic, with some basic camos when compared to some of the more modern games, but most of them can be earned by the player, which really goes a long way in keeping you invested and playing for longer. You can also prestige absolutely everything in the game, from your player, to your weapons, to even your Titan, which again really keeps you invested and gives you that sense of earning your way up the ranks. Something that I find really understated when it comes to Titanfall 2 is a sense of community. It really is those small things which count in this aspect, such as being able to see how many players are online, which always lets me know that there's a stable community still playing this game. Alongside this, and there's a network system, allowing you to either create or join a club and level it up together. And every day, there's a happy hour, where you can earn more XP, which gives an incentive for club members to party up and play at that time in the day. I really do think that this game would have benefited from some sort of theatre mode, as given the clips you were able to hit in this game and the fun that's able to be had, I think this would have given players a platform to share it on the game rather than upload it to platforms like YouTube. One last issue that I must mention, and it's something that doesn't even surprise me given the fact that the publisher of this game is EA, is the poor server quality of this game in the year 2023. To me, it's inexcusable not to fix them, and it's such an annoying issue that seems to affect everyone. I did some research into it, and it's to do with the server size and quality being poor, and I can't see this ever being fixed due to this game not making EA as much money as their newer titles. This leaves everyone who wants to play Titanfall in a frustrating position, as the queue times are already fairly slow due to this game being almost 7 years old. But when you add to this the fact that if you don't find the game quick enough, you disconnect and have to queue again, and it creates an annoying cycle which eventually leads to me going off the game as I get fed up from searching and disconnecting for 10 minutes straight. Unfortunately, it does make playing this game very hard at times, but I expect nothing less from the same company who just focuses on monetizing sports games every year. Overall though, if I were to give you a reason to play Titanfall, I would tell you that if you want a game free from the restraints that modern gaming seems to have on FPS games nowadays, a game that puts fun first, and a game with a strong sense of community that doesn't rely on external factors such as a tedious grind to keep you playing, then you will love Titanfall 2. It came out at a time where games were being more monetized and dumbed down at the expense of the player base. But Respawn made sure that this game is pure fun. Every single mechanic I mentioned in this section of the video culminate to create this feeling. This is made more impressive when you consider EA are the publisher. And over the years, as I'm sure you'll know, we've seen what happens when they want to get more money out of a game, but somehow this game has managed to stay free of that worry. Ever since the first game, the universe of Titanfall has always been quite intriguing, but in the first, there was no real campaign experience. However, Titanfall 2 said screw all the multiplayer story integration and fully expands on some of the stories in this futuristic universe. We follow a rifleman named Jack Cooper as he looks to become a pilot, which ends up happening earlier than expected after Captain Lastimosa gets game ended. This allows Cooper to take control of his new Titan, BT-7274, or more commonly known as BT. The duo team up and end up forming a strong bond in order to take out the IMC forces. Our Titan BT outlines the 3 key themes that will show up and remain strong throughout the entire game. That being, Protocol 1. Link to the pilot. And this ensures a bond between Cooper and BT, which is what enables them to team up together to take out the hostile forces. Protocol 2. Uphold the mission. As we're at war, we need to ensure that BT and Cooper always remember what they've been sent out to do, and to destroy the IMC's secret weapon and end the war. After all, it's an intriguing world out there, and we don't want to get sidetracked. Unless maybe it's for those collectibles, in which case I guess we get a pass. And most importantly, Protocol 3, protect the pilot, which is now Jack Cooper. This means that BT is programmed to always be there in the face of danger, and always risk its safety for the sake of ours. And this is a key fact that you might want to remember. As we progress through the story, we take out high-standing members of the IMC, such as Kane and Ash, to try and halt the progress of the IMC's increasing power over planets in Titanfall. However, the more we progress, the more we see how big of a force the IMC are, and it creates this feeling of just being a small part of this large-scale conflict. This is what allows us to create such a strong bond with BT, as many of the tasks at hand require both the pilot and the Titan. This could signify the relationship that we may have with robots in the future, as there are certain things robots can do better than us, but also certain things that naturally humans can do better with their level of emotional intelligence. It's the bond between Cooper and BT that allows them to get through these tough situations, such as the sewers with the poison at the start of the game, or shortly afterwards when BT is taken by a machine. It's their faith to uphold the mission that keeps them both in the fight and re-establish that link to the pilot. Throughout all of the action in the game, BT does his best to meet all 3 protocols, but as the 3rd protocol states, BT must protect the pilot at all costs, which leads us to the ending sequence of the game. The arc weapon that the IMC threatened to use must be destroyed, but in an act to not only save Cooper, but perhaps many more people in the Titanfall universe, BT sacrifices himself to destroy it. A sad conclusion indeed, but one that wraps up the story of Cooper and BT and the connections pilots have with their Titan, making the ultimate sacrifice more powerful. The game does leave small hints of future games too, with many references to what would end up becoming Apex Legends, with the owner of the Apex games being Cuban Blisk. Ash is also now a playable character in that game, and the lore of Apex and Titanfall is strongly intertwined. The level design of Titanfall 2 is no secret anymore, with a particular mission receiving countless compliments over the last few years, that being Affecting Cause, or as most of the community knows it, the time travel one. But what if I told you that Affecting Cause isn't the only good mission in Titanfall 2? What if all the levels were creative and excellent in their own way? Well, it shouldn't be a what if here, because all of them are excellent. Take the opening level for example. We must go and retrieve 2 batteries for our mate here BT. And as we wall ride and fight off groups of enemies, and climb through these crashed ships, the game somehow creates a sense of openness, despite the level being fairly linear. But that just might be the intrigue of the planet Typhon, which is absolutely beautiful, and shows off how good Respawn are at creating these new environments. Next up, and we are tasked with going through a sewer with sludge on the floor that we cannot walk on. And I know what you might be thinking here. A sewer and sludge? That sounds bloody awful. But I think you may have forgotten the fact that we have a huge Titan to bring with us. BT allows us to easily pass through the early stages, but after this we're split up. It's here where once again we must make it through on our own, using our pilot abilities to wall ride and boost jump over the obstacles. The enemy placement in this level is perfect to me, with some tough sections, but never too many enemies to overwhelm you, and I played on Master difficulty. I'm an epic gamer, I know. That is until we reach the first boss of the game, and I have to say, I love the boss battles in this game. They really are so immersive and are the best showcases of Titan combat to convey how intense such a battle would be. The biggest strength for the next level, Into the Abyss, is in its suspense and intrigue. We begin to enter this facility, which at face value doesn't seem like much, but once we go deeper, we see this strange place where they seem to be crafting homes on a mass scale, and suggested the IMC's plans post-war. Whilst we dive deeper, we have Ash on the radio signalling that danger is up ahead. The area here acts as the perfect playground for our pilot, and the movement potential here is fantastic. This mission then culminates in my favourite boss battle in the game, which is Ash. This battle is at a whole new level of intensity, with the speed of Ash's Titan being overwhelming at times, but this just makes the victory at the end even more sweet. The next level should need no introduction, and I won't spend too much time on it as it's been covered time and time again. Affecting cores might be the most creative mission I can remember in any FPS title. This constant switching between the past and present perspective is simply incredible, not only for the story aspect, but also how it impacts level design. The obstacles are super unique here, as you must switch between both time periods to pass through the different sections of the level. As you do this, you're encountering different enemies, which make you think before every decision, as you can get caught out when you come out of a time travel. I can't do this level enough justice though, so please just go check out this video by Ben Plays Games, as if you want a more detailed rundown, then that's the one to go to. We then reach a fairly simple sounding level, one where we must repair a beacon. However, it's another outstanding showcase of creativity from Respawn, as this level is another huge standout. I get a lot of Portal vibes with this mission, as we use something called the Arc tool, which is similar to the Portal gun, to zap platforms and help us traverse the different sections. Not only that, but we get to use all these cranes to move barriers in place so we can wall run over them. When you add to this the stunning visuals of the level, and to me, you once again have one of the more impressive levels of any FPS game over the last decade. A lot of the levels so far have been more creative than they have been action-packed, but the next one allows us to fully experience that Titan combat. Alongside a host of different Titans in our squad, we storm the base, taking out what feels like hundreds of Titans. And this mission does not slow down, with it being almost 30 minutes of action-packed fun. I like how this level in particular finally allows you to be the pilot that Cooper has always wanted to be, and control a Titan in all-out warfare, and mixes up the gameplay in an awesome way. The penultimate level of the campaign takes us to a moving fleet of ships. Here, we use loads of movement to traverse them, and even get to be thrown by BT again. The speed we're moving at here is really conveyed through the gameplay, with lots of fast combat sections. This culminates in a difficult boss battle in Viper, where the Titan moves really fast in the air. You must use your initiative and make a run for cover every time you see the missile ability, as it does huge amounts of damage if you stand there shooting. So now, we finally reached the last mission of the game, and this level to me is one where the game finally stops trying to be difficult and instead fully leans into the fun aspect of being a pilot. We get to use the iconic smart pistol as we lock onto any target and wipe out a huge number of IMC forces in a short amount of time. This is all until we get a new and improved version of BT that also has built-in lock-on features. We storm the base of our new Titan and then fight one last epic boss battle. We end up defeating Sloan, and then happens the ultimate sacrifice from BT. This level is truly the best way to end such a game and really puts you through a rollercoaster of emotions. It really makes me want more, but I'm happy with what's here, because from a story and gameplay perspective, Titanfall 2 is up there as one of the best FPS campaigns I've ever played. I hope that in this retrospective review, I've been able to convey how much I love Titanfall, but more importantly, how much of a great game it really is. When we look at the landscape of gaming over the last decade, we can certainly see a decline in many aspects and genres, and the FPS genre is no different, with new titles being released year after year, following the same blueprint left by the last one, and a lot of the games in the genre fail to stand out. With Titanfall 2, however, I see it as the shining star of the genre over recent times. You can really see the passion that went into every aspect of the game, from the meticulously crafted level design, to the gripping story, or even the action-packed outstanding multiplayer experience. There isn't an aspect of the game where quality isn't visible. The campaign in particular is truly nearing on flawless. We knew that Respawn could make a good multiplayer from the first game, but it turns out they can also craft a great campaign. Filled to the brim with unique and creative levels and a gripping story, I truly have ran out of words to describe it. It's for these reasons why I give Titanfall 2 an 87 out of 100 score. Simply a game that doesn't let current trends spoil the fun. In fact, the only issues I have with the game, to this day, are things that are out of the developer's control, and are just things we've come to expect from EA being the publisher. It's a shame that this game didn't really get the respect it deserved at the time, due to its questionable launch timing, and it hasn't exactly stayed in the mainstream for long either. However, as I mentioned countless times in this video, there is still a very passionate fanbase who still plays this game, and they deserve more. This game should have been continued longer, and if that wasn't the plan all along, then the community and gaming as a whole deserves a Titanfall 3, but only time will tell if that will end up being a reality.